All right, I'm gonna dive in because I don't want to run long and I want to break before Christopher and give him a chance to get set up. So, yeah, you ever put in a talk before you're ready to actually give the talk? I did. Originally, this talk was going to be much more about I did something cool in Solr using agents. But that project has not yet started, or it's just, starting. So I emailed the organizers. I'm like, uh-oh, what should I do? I had some very different topics, but they said, we still want to talk about AI and in the context of search. So I was like, all right, I'm going to give a talk about search and AI. And I'm going to show some actual stuff as well to play with. And in some ways, it's a little bit of an opinion piece. If we had keynotes for the search track, I would have put this up as a keynote for the search track, right? This is my talk, Bring in the Robots. And it's a little bit, this is the work slide, blah, 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 blah. So, how many people here identify as search people? Okay. How many identify as AI engineers? Yeah, that's one of our challenges, right? Is that, AI is our biggest frenemy, right? And I love that word. Have you all heard it? It's a portmanteau, right? Someone, an enemy that pretends to be your friend and you don't realize it, right? Or sometimes we use this word co-opetition as well, right? A real friend who is also a rival, right? And I'm a consultant. I work with a lot of clients. And what I can tell you is that my enterprise search teams are really hating life right now because the AI teams took up all the budget. They don't get to travel, they don't get to do cool stuff. The AI team is like, can you just give me all your data? The query I would like to issue to your search engine is select star, rows equals 1 billion, and you just give me your data and I will take it from here, okay? We got the adults, we got the big boys, we got the smart people. You search people, we got it from here, right? I'm a search guy. I don't like that. I have a hammer called a search engine. I love my hammer, right? And more enlightened people will be like, Eric, she used the right tool for the job and all that, and I get that. But I am more of an emotional person, an emotional thinker, and one of the things I'm emotionally connected to is my search engines, because that's where I built my career most successfully, and I like using search engines, and I want to use them for everything. And I actually think that there's an argument about why the things that search people bring to the table are actually what the future needs. If only we were better at telling our story and or the rest of the world would listen to us, right? So that's kind of where I'm coming from. Someone give me a 10-minute warning, okay, so I don't go too long. This may be a 20-minute talk and it might also be a 50-minute talk, okay? So, I want to put I want to explain why I am very sus about AI. So, back in before I was a search guy, back in the 70s and 80s, there was a super small, tight community that dealt with search, right? Typically had neck beards and were really hardcore and like stop words for some reason. Oh, because they were running on tiny computers, right? And that was it small. And search and information retrieval back then was super, super, super small. And then eventually it grew up a little bit. And when did commercial search engines become a thing? 80s? That's before my time. 90s, right? There were commercial search engines and lots of them. And that, we went from just a couple people in search to sort of a small community of people who cared about search engines and search, right? And the wealthiest companies would buy a search engine, take 2 years to deploy it, use it for 2 years, get annoyed with it for a year, do an RFP for a year, and then repeat the cycle, right? But search grew up a little bit. There were more people using it. We went from tiny to a little bit bigger. And then open source came along, right? Was Lucene the first open source search engine technology other than weird academic ones that nobody uses? I mean, we're at the 20-year anniversary, so I don't know, or last year was the 20-year anniversary, but all of a sudden we had open source search engines, right? And what they did was grew our community. All of a sudden, a lot more people were interested in search, right? And you could build them and use them, and the field of search grew, and that was a nice thing, right? And we started having conferences more like this around open source search engines. And then, the good days. Big data. Anyone here remember big data? I always remember that Grant Ingersoll made a quote, and he was one of the leaders of the Solr community. He said, search is the user interface to big data. All of a sudden, we're generating massive amounts of data. We had no idea how to look at it, and we used search engines. That was fun. It was all about scaling. It was all about, could I handle the volume on ingest? And that was a fun time period. And then once we got, and search grew, right? More people using it, more technologies using it, got more important. And then machine learning came along, and that exposed us to a new set of people, data scientists and machine learning engineers, because now that we had all this data in our search engines, we wanted to do cool stuff with it. And machine learning was predicated on large volumes of data and pattern prediction. And so our community grew, right? And this was really good. This was an exciting time. And then this grew our community like crazy, although it always blew my mind that 70% of Elasticsearch's revenue comes off of observability, and I would say the same thing for OpenSearch and most other things. Like, why did search become, and that's Elastic's little tagline when you fire it up, for search, why did search become the engine of DevOps and observability and all of these spheres? But it exposed all these new people that today we would call DevOps engineers. Back then, I don't know what we called them, to these ideas behind search engines and querying and ingesting and that. And, I think this was sort of the biggest extent where our community was the broadest and largest that it's ever been. And then along comes AI, right? It's only been, when did ChatGPT really show up? It was 3 years ago, right? Is that right? Okay. I kind of sometimes November or something like that, right? And then it really changed things. And through every other revolution we've had, the world of search, in my perspective, has grown. More people are interested in it, more new perspectives, but they're still all doing search, and they care about search. But my fear with AI is that this is what the world of search may start to look like in a world where AI reigns supreme. This is a crumbling village, right? I assume you guys got my analogy, right? Or my visual metaphor. Good, I meant to introduce and describe it a little more, right? This is what search looks like when our community stagnates. Or really, this is what it looks like when our community shrinks, right? No more innovation, no new ideas, a brutal focus on cost cutting and how cheap and reliable can I make it, but no new ideas, no fun, right? This is what I worry that search will look like when AI reigns supreme. And let me try to explain a little bit why I think that. So, minus a few layers, this is what most search apps look like, right? We have a search engine, we have an app, and we have hopefully a happy user, right? And in these applications, the value, the thing that makes the user smile, or makes them angry and upset, because we have a lot of those too, is the search engine. It's the quality of the algorithms. It's what we're doing with the data. It's everything down in here. This is the value generated to make a happy user. It's us, the people in this room. So glad there's no AI people here. It makes it more comfortable for me. It's us in this room that generate the value. We're the ones that drive e-commerce click-through. We're the ones who build the tools that find interesting insights for drug discovery. We're the ones who make dating apps actually work, right? The value is here. My fear is that this is the world that we're potentially rapidly moving to, right? Especially, and the value, the center of value, what makes a smiling, happy person, or even that's my robot, right? A smiling, happy robot is up here in this, whatever we call this AI app layer thing, right? And it has very little to do with search. If you think about AI apps, right? There's a search engine, pile of raw data that we're parsing, right? In our RAG world, we'd say it's a lot of PDFs that get enriched, whatever, right? A bunch of databases that you're making SQL things, and the magic, the importance, the thing that gets you a bonus or a raise or a happy customer is all sitting up in here. And we are only one, if you were to evenly distribute the importance, we're what, 1/3 the value, right? You're not going to be investing in search in a world like this. I love your face, David, and I look forward to you asking your question. Let me go a little bit further, but then don't forget to ask your question, okay?
Don't look too much into my facial expression.
Okay. All right. Keep looking over here. So
I'm not judging you.
Okay. So this is my fear of the world that we're heading to. And AI, in my mind, is the first really exciting thing that doesn't make search grow and more interesting. Now, is it cool to throw AI at search problems? Sure, right? And in fact, I'll show you a cool thing of using some AI in a search problem. Right? Making search better using AI is, perfectly good, right? But it's also like adding GPUs to search to make it better, a good thing. It's not, AI people, right now at least, do not view us as a place they want to be. And I do worry that we will lose our best and brightest out to the shiny AI world. It's what I see with my clients, that the sharp, bright person who was in search is now on whatever it is that the AI team is doing, right? Ironically, what is the app that every AI team starts with? When they get a pile of money and funding, what do all AI teams build first? Come on, someone shout it out. Exactly. And what is a RAG app?
Search.
It's search, right? Or at least the R is retrieval, right? Now, there's cool A and G up in here as well, but most RAG apps do start out here, but then they do very quickly say, we got that, that's okay. Wouldn't it be cool if we access these APIs down here that we have? Oh, wait, if you ask me a question like, show me the highest revenue salesperson, I don't need a search engine for that. That kind of sounds like a SQL query over a data store, right? They're going in here, right? So I do think it is interesting the AI teams all start with this search problem, then they start tackling these, and quite a few AI teams do learn that they need search. And so that gives me hope for the future. So this is another reason why I think we struggle, right? Have we all heard this phrase? We would all agree that actions speak louder than words, right? Unfortunately, what do we spend our days doing? We think a lot about words. We think a lot about tokens. We think a lot about, am I getting you the best results? It can be very academic and very ivory tower, right? I am giving you the best answer. Meanwhile, AI teams, the whole point of AI is to make something happen, right? That is what we want out of AI. We want the ball bearings to repair the machine to already be ordered and on the way in response to a bunch of data. We want the tired example of you buy your plane tickets. I don't know, that was such a bad example. But actions, actually making things happen, is what AI teams focus on and what they're measured on. And if they can't make those actions occur, right, we're already starting to hear some AI teams having hard times. Companies maybe saying, oh, we got too excited about AI. And when AI teams don't make actions happen, that's when, companies get upset with them and those efforts. But they're very action oriented. And I think that's been a problem for us, is that we don't focus on actions and end results. We tend to focus on, did I give you 10 documents back really, really quickly, and were they the best possible 10 documents, but not caring about the rest? And often, you actually don't need to give the best data back to make something happen. You just need to give good enough data to make something happen. So I think that this is a big challenge for those of us in search in this new world that we're looking at. So there's a company called Vectara. I meant to get their logo on here and I didn't, but this is where I copied this idea from. So yesterday is the keyword-based search engine. I do a search and I get some results back, right? The 10 blue links. That's what we've done for years. That was the dominant model, but that is yesterday. This is fun, right? Hybrid semantic search, leveraging LLMs. I only missed agentic, right? If only I'd put that in there, I would have had that, right? And, we like to revariant search periodically, right? But so answer engine, I don't know. It's Vectara's slide. But that is the thing that we're trying to do now. I actually don't want to read all the source material. Just give me the answer. That's what I want. I like to go look at the source if I don't like your answer or don't believe it or will need to, right? But I want an answer. I don't want a whole bunch of documents. And this is what we're all working on right now. And it's exciting. But, right, back to what AI teams care about, right? And this is what Vectara says, is that search engines will eventually become these action engines. What we broadly call a search engine is actually uniquely positioned to power decision-making processes that drive actions. And I'll try to get one more level of depth on that, if that's my next slide. Oh, good, it is. So, how am I doing on time? I got plenty of time, right? 20 minutes? So, I have a couple of ideas. If I was wearing my Solr hat, I would say this is specific to Solr. If I'm wearing I'm a search guy hat, this is search. Is that we in search need to be more ambitious than we have. We have focused on the search engine level problem for too long. We're kind of getting into this answer thing with some retrieval augmented generation and some hybrids in semantic and vector. But we need to think a lot bigger about what is a search engine. Or we're just going to be relegated to 1 out of 3 data stores that isn't very important, right? If we want to be up there, we have to think more ambitiously. And I think that we bring a lot of very practical knowledge to the table, right? What do we do a lot in search? We do a lot with ranking, right? And ranking's a hard problem, right? How do I understand you well enough so that I understand what you think is important as compared to Gus over here, right? Ranking is a fuzzy, complex, difficult, data-driven problem, and it's core to what we all do. We're used to messy data, right? Search engines literally are built on unstructured, semi-structured. Sometimes we're lucky and it's structured, but it's often semi-structured and unstructured. We're used to that. And we're also used to just crummy data. Like, it can be super structured and still really bad and incomplete or wrong, right? Those are things that we have dealt with for years, and that's just part of what we do. And then lastly, I do feel like, especially thanks to big data, right, we're actually used to scaling a system that has millions of queries, millions of documents, millions of users. Those aren't unusual numbers for many of us to have one of those three, two of those three, or all three. We're used to the scaling side of things, right? And one of my strong beliefs is that in 18 months to 24 months, robots, looking at you, agent, are going to be issuing 10x the number of queries to our search engines than users ever did, right? Like, user growth in search is whatever it is, but we have all these new agentic automated workflows that are just exploding. And guess what? Robots, they don't mind sending query after query after query, right? They're quite patient. They don't get tired, right? They'll actually paginate through every page if that's what they need to do, right? How many websites out there are complaining because OpenAI's crawlers are bringing them down, right? The robots don't mind issuing lots of queries, and so we're gonna see a lot more query growth just spike. And I don't think the traditional data science model sort of things are well positioned for 10x, 100x, 1000x growth in the number of questions being asked for them, right? That we're going to get in this agentic. So I think that we have to think big. I also think, oh my God, we've made search so complex and difficult, right? Why is Lucene query syntax like it is to make a Lucene query? Why is configuring Solr so difficult? Why is OpenSearch's or Elasticsearch's DSL so horrible? And also, why can't I just use Python? Because that's what the language of data science and machine learning and that, to describe what I want, right? And I think that this is a place where we can really work well with AI tools, right? We should never write a query again by hand. We should ask our buddy Claude, here is my fuzzy query, convert it to whatever I need, right? Does amazing, it's really great. And more complex concepts like, I don't know, you saw the plumbing that I had to do in my previous talk to do sentiment analysis. I think my buddy Claude could just spit that out for me. And maybe he could even just do it for me. I would like sentiment analysis applied to the comment field. And good buddy Claude's gonna go out there and figure it all out. Needs maybe a little bit of training, maybe needs some documentation to consume, but he's gonna do a great job. And maybe we could move up the stack and quit being so low level in how we do things with our XML and our JSON and all of that. So I think that this is a place where we need to embrace our frenemy, right? And move a lot faster. And that's what I'm going to show if I have time. And of course, break down the silo between search and AI. And unfortunately, when I hear that, what I really hear is embrace Python, right? I'm not a Python guy. I think white space delimiting is ridiculous. I also really like Ruby and Ruby on Rails, so there's that battle as well. But why can't I just do everything through Python? Why don't I have a Jupyter notebook interface inside my search engine to configure everything, right? We do amazing stuff in Colab. Why isn't that just the UI in Solr, right? Why can't I do all of that in there? Why do I need to know Java? Or these various weird languages and things that we do. right? So Python everywhere, right? Scripting update request handler comes back to life, only this time it's a Python wrapper. Jason. Okay, and then I think down here, one of the things that we need to offer is more value, right? Back to the think big. We don't actually, what open source search engine does A/B testing? None of them. What open source search engine collects user clicks and feedback other than Vespa, right? What open source engine likes doing machine learning and likes supporting complex mathematical functions other than Vespa, right? None of them. We need to offer more value to our data science machine learning colleagues so that they want to come join us in search instead of saying, give me all your documents and I'll take it from there. So those are just a little bit of a rant, but those are some of my opinions. So, having said that, how am I doing on time?
You're about 10 minutes
10
left.
10 minutes? Excellent. All right, I'm going to show you something, and I hope it works, and we'll see. No talk about robots is complete right now without MCP. Everybody know what that is? Model Context Protocol. It's a way of talking to tools. It's super cool. It's also super basic in some ways. It's like, anyone remember ORBS and Object Request Brokers or Corba? I'm dating myself back in the good old Enterprise Java days. All right, hold on. And flash 5 minutes, because I need 5 minutes right at the end for my last little bit. Okay, so those of you in the Solr community on the dev list maybe saw an email from Ishan a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. Had a nice chat with him, and he reminded me of this really cool project called the Solr MCP server. Okay, so the idea behind MCP servers is it's a way for a large language model to go look up a whole bunch of tools and know how to use them. Sort of an LLM-driven version of what Jeff and I showed in the previous talk, and then go use them for something, right? And so I was like, oh, okay, maybe cool, I don't know. And so I went and tried it out. And I confess I went and tried it out just a couple of days ago. I opened up a pull request with some feedback. And so I was like, okay, well, let's find out. And so this Solr MCP server lets you make a search on a Solr collection. We can index some documents. We can list some collections, stats, health, schema, okay? Now, lately, I've discovered Zed. Zed is an awesome text editor. So much fun. If you ever used Atom back in the day, it's Atom but written in Rust. Similar people, same people, but redone. Kind of reminds me of when I discovered TextMate. And I think I am as rabid about Zed as some people are about like Vim and Emacs. So, well, not that rabid. Nobody can. So, one of the things that it has is a chatbot. So, what is the weather in Minnesota? I don't know. Is that going to work? Hoping my internet works. So, non-determinate systems are much harder to demo than deterministic systems, I am discovering. Right? So, you all have seen that, right? You play with it. Okay. Well, what about my Solr server? What collections does it have? I have not canned these. I've run through it once, and it worked, but these are like not the exact same, so I don't actually know what's going to happen. Hey, well, that's kind of cool. Can everybody see the screen? List collections. Oh, this is cool. I did fix this one. I found one collection on your Solr server. Oh dear God, why are we stuck between cores and collections for everything? And must we be confused about that, right? So this, other times it returns books, but this time it returned the shard name, the core name. All right. I think booked, but this is cool. I'm happy this happened, assuming it works. Is it really? To the books collection, can you use that name instead and check the health of the collection? Right, health check tool probably is collection based. Let's find out. So, do you see what it just did? I told it that you got this one piece of information, but I actually want you to call it something different because you glitched a little bit. And is it working? Oh my gosh, you're right. I do love that it's like it gives me constant feedback that I enjoy because I need constant positive reinforcement before I get like uncomfortable. You're right, the collection is indeed accessible as books. I mean, think about that. If you had to write code to do that interaction model, how much Java error handling would it have taken? What does the UI look like that supports, I'm returning cores and I meant collections, right? And interestingly, sometimes it comes back as books and sometimes it comes back as that one, right? So that's pretty cool, right? Yeah, so can you do a simple search for some data? Let's see what it does, right? I know if I told it a book name, it would have done that. I'm kind of curious what it's going to do, and it does not know what's in the collection. Oh, so what'd we do? What'd we do? Okay, we did a simple search, right? And okay, there are some books. Hey, right? Yeah, search by genre. Or tell me about the genre. Thank you. So this whole thing, right, is giving me a really interactive experience. How much JSON syntax have I looked up? How many ref guide documents? How quickly can I delete the bin Solr collection command and all of those out of our code base because we never need them again? This guy is talking through our APIs that are existing. So I played with it. I had it mock up some data. I had it make 2 queries, grab them back, write them as a JSON, compare the differences, right? It's phenomenal. So really, really enjoyed this tool. That's
Can you delete it?
What's that?
Can you send a delete message to delete a couple of documents?
Yeah, totally.
Why stop there? Why don't you just ask it to clean up your disk drive?
Bobby dropped it. No,
Bobby.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Can you delete the George R.R. Martin? See if he figures out what we're asking for. I don't see a direct. Okay, so he's coming back. Do we not have a delete tool for Solr? Did you notice that there was not one? Or is there not one? I could imagine that the guy who wrote it didn't put a delete tool in.
on purpose, maybe.
Uh-oh, nope, I don't see a delete tool. Okay. Oh, but there is my syntax, right? Can you... Alright, we're gonna get off into just that. And eventually he's gonna spit out a Python program and tell me to run that Python program right? So, but I have added documents. I've had it read documents, compare them, do a lot of processing, and that's with like 7 tools. So one of my thoughts and one of the conversations I had with Ishan, right, was, hey, right, if we're gonna do this, I don't know if maybe I didn't add that slide, maybe we ought to bring this tool in as a first-class citizen into Solr, right? We've kicked around, what we need is the person who made it and a Solr committer to work together to get this in there. It uses a little spring under the covers for configuration, but it's just a web service. Like it was pretty easy to set up. It's a URL, and wouldn't it be nice if you had this as an interface? So we're talking to Solr. So that's kind of an example of something that's pretty interesting and definitely has me thinking. So with that said, I also wanted to kind of wrap this up with, so that was a cool thing. So something that I think about when I am afraid of AI, right, and what it means to us, is one thing that I have to remind myself is that is the people that I get to work with, right? AI is never going to replace the people I work with. I went back, you are David. I went back and pulled out a couple of photos. There's my moose. I wanted to have him up here. There's Fro and Jeff, right? Is he in here? Trey, Mike McCandless, when I went up and pitched him. Eric Hatcher, who got me into search. Thank you, Christopher. That was Christopher putting his talk proposal in. Jason, a whole bunch of us sitting around the table. And so, the other thing, when I get afraid of the robots, I do have to remind myself that I'm surrounded by human beings and that the future isn't totally bleak. So, that's my talk. Thank you all. I would love to show the Solr MCP tool out more. Definitely jump-started me in MCPing everything.
Yeah, I did a PR to it a few days ago.
I saw. So, yes. So, yeah. You want to get set up?
Yeah.
I have time for a comment. Your face, David?
Oh, sometimes I'm pensive. I'm absorbing and I'm thinking and I'm pondering, and it may seem like I'm an extreme judgment, but I'm just.
Eric, what was the interface that through which you were issuing commands? Was it the was it the Z editor itself?
Yeah.
Oh, Zed. Zed.
Because it said it's contacting the Z agent.
So, no, so the text editor was Zed. And the thing with these MCP tools is you can use them with lots of different tools, all the different editors. And MCP, this whole idea is that by telling the LLM, so I registered in Zed a Solr MCP tool and a Cupid MCP tool. And then when it fires up, it goes and asks, what are the tools that are available and what's the description, the inputs and the outputs? Now the language model has access to those tools to make decisions, right? So I did set that up, and one of the things that I did set in it was where the Solr was, right? Some MCP tools, you tell it the name of the thing that you want to work with, right? This one, there was an environment variable that said my Solr. So
Was it? I don't believe it was running a local LLM, is it?
no, that was Claude 3.7. So, because that's what I get for $20 a month. And it feels like it's pretty much unlimited use. 120,000 tokens. So my conversation can only be so long, and then he books. So, but I typically also get distracted before I hit the limit as well, and have another conversation that really confuse my buddy. So, yeah.
Thank you.
So, cool.
So I have a very